Guys. Awesome.
Huh?
And how do we drop this thing down? Oh, really?
Yeah, that I wouldn't
Do any of this stuff.
sure it has something to do with this rope.
Right. No,
Or you do it, Sean?
yeah. Or I'll help you. I mean, I'll kind of supervise.
I was gonna say check on that side over there. Because I think at that point
Yeah.
yeah, that side of rope on that side.
Oh, wait. Oh, I thought that was on that other thing.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I just. Okay.
You getting ready to go?
Yeah.
We
I'm
just
getting
got
ready to go.
A little bit of wind issues going on, so we're trying to
Nice.
address. Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Oh,
Yeah.
is that where the wind? Is that where the wind's coming from?
I don't know. You're the TV guy.
I don't know much about the wind. All I know is.
Yeah, come on. Don't play like you're not a meteorologist during hurricane season.
Guys, no problem.
Great. All right.
Let's not pretend like you are not a meteorologist. Damn it! I can't get online with my computer, even though I'm supposedly online with my I have my.
Which Wi-Fi did you find? Is it the,
No, so there is a Wi-Fi here.
Yes, there is. It's a really speedy one.
Which one? What is it?
It's Cindy, what's the Wi-Fi one?
Pegasus, and does it?
Yeah, it is. It is just open. It's pretty
Oh.
surprising.
Oh well,
Pegasus.
actually no, it would. Pegasus SEC or no, just regular
Yeah,
Pegasus.
it's a regular Pegasus.
Oh, I see it.
Come on, baby, let's go.
All right, our mics are open. We are about to get started.
I just got to check my hair,
We got to check Omar's hair.
which is not doing quite.
This is
not
X and
doing
Omar
very
on the
well.
road. This is a first. So
Absolutely.
we're getting everything all set and ready for you.
You got the horses behind you?
Oh. Look at the camera.
There you go. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Damn you, Pegasus.
Still not working?
No, I don't know if it's my computer. It can't be my computer.
It should.
It's-
Yeah. Not the Sun Sentinel.
It's like.
Center connected. Should just connect straight in here. Use turn on a guess.
Cindy, when you
F
through the
this,
cameras
that
on that
guess.
TV screen,
I don't know.
are you okay?
Let me see. No.
No, you're not like it.
Huh?
Alright, I'll change the tight camera.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. You got it? Welcome to a new season of X's and Omar, a season unlike any other. Alongside Dolphins columnist for the Sun Sentinel, Omar Kelly, I'm CBS 12 Sports Director Matt Lincoln, and it is week 3 of the NFL season, but really it sort of feels like week 1
Yes.
for X's and Omar.
It is
Here
week
we are
1.
together.
You cheated on me last week with Chris Perkins. I was over in LA with the displaced Dolphins, and then week 1 got canceled because of Hurricane Irma. Hopefully everything is fine in your land.
Everything is fine in my land.
It surprises me. I got back on Monday and I was shocked at how much we're still recovering. I went to the grocery store yesterday. Grocery stores had nothing. I drove in my car today. Every single tire had low pressure. It's still recovery time.
Still recovery time, and I know part of the recovery for a lot of people in South Florida is the Dolphins.
Yes.
And hopefully a little bit of this show. You guys are ready to get going with the NFL season, and we are ready to get going here at our new home, Gulfstream Park. For the entirety of this season, X's and Omar is going to be live on location. It is X's and Omar presented by Gulfstream Park. We are here for you. There's a huge setup here with tiki bars and for you to actually come and watch X's and Omar live. We want to fill this place. We'll take your questions live after the show is over. All you got to do is come in person, and we will talk. You can grab lunch at a Brio, Yard House, all sorts of great places that you can eat lunch here at Gulfstream Park, and you can enjoy some great Dolphins talk. And let's get into it by talking about the win in a minute. Before we get to that, it wouldn't be the start of a Dolphins season if it wasn't drama upon drama upon drama upon drama. And linebacker Lawrence Timmons, all of a sudden, right before week 2, first game of the season, goes AWOL. What was your take on that whole situation?
You know, it's important to know the difference between disappearance and AWOL. AWOL means just disappear unannounced, without, you know, no.
He's not
no
away
warning.
from the team.
No,
he's gone.
He's just gone, surprise. And that's what the Dolphins did when they woke up, really, and realized that Lawrence Timmons not really woke up. They knew it that night, bed check. But Lawrence Timmons wasn't with the team. We don't know when he's going to come back. He is suspended indefinitely. The longest suspension that he can have from the NFL PA is 4 games. So more than likely, he's missed 1 game. More than likely, he'll continue to miss at least this game. We might be looking at another 3-game absence. But Dolphins yesterday subsequently traded for Stephen Anthony, a linebacker, former first-round pick from the New Orleans Saints. He's a physical linebacker. He's a failure as an inside linebacker, but it's probably ideal for him to become a strong side linebacker, which is what the Dolphins really need with Lawrence Timmons gone.
I just came from Adam Gase's press conference. I really had nothing to say about Lawrence Timmons. Didn't want to say anything, including what could he do to end the suspension. Basically, he's not playing this weekend. He's out indefinitely. And then when asked about Stephon Anthony, it was they actually liked him for a while. Have had their eyes on Stephon Anthony for a while. This is a guy who's been a huge disappointment in New Orleans.
Well, he had 1 productive rookie season, 100 and something tackles.
Sure.
When I reviewed him coming into the draft that year, the Dolphins needed linebacker. He wasn't one of the players that I really liked from this standpoint. I didn't think he was instinctive enough to be an inside linebacker, but from a physical standpoint, he is a physical freak of an athlete. Ran a 4.52 in the 40-yard dash. #1 player when it comes to the shuttle run, which gives you athleticism and range. He's physical, but he's not stiff, which is what I like about him. The problem is he's going to have to redefine his NFL career. You are not an inside linebacker. You don't have the instincts to play that position. Let's play Sam. Let's see if you can help from a blitzing standpoint, see if you can help from a coverage standpoint, see if you can help from a run-stopping standpoint. Limit the things that you do, probably make you a 2-down linebacker, and keep things going.
And Gase said that Anthony could maybe even possibly play this weekend.
More, yeah, definitely. I think he's going to play. You have nothing to work with.
Thing is, their Dolphins are desperate. Are they handling the Timmons thing right?
I think they are handling the Timmons things right. There has to be consequences to disappearing and just not showing up for a game, not showing up for work. He didn't play last week. Still hasn't rejoined the team this week. Hey, there are consequences to your actions when you choose to do that. Now, I wish the best for him, just from this standpoint. He's shown you in 11 years he's been a stability, a leader, reliable. You just all of a sudden decide that I'm just going to counteract everything that I've ever done in my career and disappear on everybody that's important and, you know, come back. So it has to be something drastic. I hope his health, his family's health, I hope that's all in order.
That's what we don't know.
Yeah.
Something is wrong, and
as a society, we need to know. Yeah.
But whatever the excuse was, it wasn't good enough for Adam Gase.
I don't know if there can be an excuse for going AWOL. Okay. If you have an emergency, the first thing, Adam Gase has a very open line of communication with his players. The first thing you do is you call Adam Gase and you let him know what's going on. I'm certain he's got the phone number in his cell phone. It wasn't done. There's no excuse for that. And reality is, there has to be consequences to it because it could have impacted your team. It did impact your team. Even though they held the Chargers to 44 yards rushing, they weren't very good on defense. Even though they held the Chargers to 17 points, they still weren't very good on defense. And I expected more from them, and it kind of starts to funnel into linebacker play.
All right, we're going to talk more about the showdown with the Chargers, but let's take a question from you guys. That's what we're all about. This is a Twitter question from Dougly Do Wrong. If Lawrence Timmons isn't with the team anymore, what are the Finns' best options? What would you do?
Well, they certainly just traded for Stephen Anthony. He was a player with New Orleans that wasn't expected to really make the roster. He's the equivalent of Deion Jordan for the New Orleans Saints. So you just traded for the equivalent of one of your biggest disappointments on a team, defensive team, that's a disappointment.
But he's someone else's problem, so it's a new problem.
Okay, so he's someone else's problem. Yeah. I'm all about fresh starts.
Sure.
When you've dealt with adversity and struggles, and sometimes you just need a fresh start. Sometimes you just need a coach that believes in you. And this organization, even going back to when they liked him in the 2015 draft, they liked him a lot. They thought about drafting him, not as early as the New Orleans Saints did, but if he was in the second round, I do believe that the Dolphins would have selected him as opposed to Jordan Phillips. But, it's like the equivalent of trading Jordan Phillips to New Orleans. Is he going to instantly solve all of New Orleans' problems? Jordan Phillips going to solve all of New Orleans' problems? So why would we expect Stephen Anthony to come here and solve all of Miami's problems?
I don't think anyone is expecting to solve problems. It'd be just nice to be an okay.
Here are your options. Chase Allen. Here's the problem that happens. When Lawrence Timmons disappears, he's the every down linebacker. Now, another guy has to be paired with Kiko Alonso. That player is presently Mike Hull because he knows all of the defense and all the assignments. However, Mike Hull is not very good in pass coverage. I can say he's adequate when it comes to stopping the run. He's a liability in pass coverage. 10 passes were completed on men that he covered last week. Okay, now let's flip it. Chase Allen, the strong side linebacker. That guy has to be a blitzer. That guy has to be a physical presence. Chase Allen is really not a physical presence, and he's definitely not a blitzer. Raekwon McMillan can emerge and become that player. Problem is, Raekwon is overweight. And it's going to, I'm sorry, not Raekwon McMillan, Ray Malaluga.
Right.
Ray Malaluga is overweight. Now he's battling a hamstring injury. It's going to take him a minute. I expected him to be a contributor probably in 2 weeks from now. So probably when they come back from London. But expecting him to be impactful now, no. Dolphins need to address their linebackers from this standpoint. They have to add depth. Kelvin Shepard can help you. He's a former Dolphins. Jonathan Freeney can help you. He's a former Dolphins. Both of those players can immediately come in and help you from a special team standpoint. And then you got Jelani Jenkins, who was just released by the Buffalo Bills. Jelani knows your defense. He's not that great of a player, but he's kind of better than what you had working if he's healthy. The problem with Jelani is he hasn't been healthy in forever. So you are trying to figure out the best solution of a bad mix of...
Sure. Come give us a couple games.
Yeah.
Because they need a couple.
They just need somebody to come help them for a couple games.
Okay, so our next Twitter question comes from DatDoyRod22. Do you blame defensive woes on player performance, play calling, or both? And would you call it woes? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Okay. It's hard for me to sit here, and I have, say that you're holding Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers to 17 points and 44 yards rushing and call it a bad performance. However, I will call it a bad performance from this standpoint.
All right.
Phillip Rivers had 110 quarterback rating. Phillip Rivers was barely even touched. Did whatever he wanted to on against the Dolphins in the passing game. The problem was they consistently tried to think that, we're going to establish the run. Well, considering that the Dolphins have been a disaster against the run, I can certainly... It's a good game plan. It's a good game plan. But the problem is it didn't work for them. So the game plan blew up in their face. Now, my question to people who say that the Dolphins performed well, answer this question. If Young Ko-Ho, or whatever his name is, had kicked that 44-yard field goal as he was expected to do,
As most
kickers can do when the quarterback lines you up right in the center, it's hard to miss that one. But he did, which is what rookies do. If he hadn't missed, who would that loss have been on?
It would have been on the Dolphins' defensive backs.
It would have been on the Dolphins' defense because they didn't get any pressure. And quarterback, if you give a good quarterback no pressure, he's going to pick you apart all day.
I mean, quick throws. Philip Rivers, you know, it wasn't like Jay Cutler had more time back there than Philip Rivers had time. It was just quicker throws, and I mean, it was 1 second, 2 second throw to Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's wide open. How is that Cam Wake's fault?
It's Cam Wake's fault from this standpoint. It wasn't just, 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, receiver open. They were playing a coverage that facilitated stopping the run. So if I don't have to lean heavily on my linebackers to drop into coverage, I mean, to linebackers to be in these gaps, then maybe I could drop them in the zones. The zones wouldn't be so wide open. Cornerbacks cannot cover forever. They need the pass rusher to get home. And then a lot of times on those blitzes that the Miami Dolphins gave, even though Lawrence Timmons is that guy who you've designed those things around, none of that stuff hit. Rashad Jones, who is a better blitzer than he showed, he had one impact play which led to the sack for William Hayes, but the blitzers weren't hitting home. They weren't when you dial them up, you better have a better success rate than the Dolphins did. And the Dolphins were telegraphing their blitz, which is never a good thing.
Never a good thing. All right, let's move on, talk a little bit more about the game last week against the Chargers. This is X's and Omar's presented by Gulfstream Park. We are here live at beautiful Hallandale Beach.
Just saw the horses, which is nice.
There's no racing here until November, but you can still come by and just, there's off-track betting, obviously, and lots of shopping, lots of great restaurants, and you can see some of the horses out here getting some work going around the track. It was a pretty decent start from Jay Cutler, I think. You know, when you look at certainly the first half, the play calling was
conservative. Even Adam Gase said it was conservative,
which is fine.
Yeah,
you know, it was sort of.
He's got to feel his way around.
You know, and one thing that Adam Gase just said moments ago at his press conference was, we really didn't know what that stadium was going to be like. No one's played football. I mean. That's why they wanted to get into a feel of that offense first. Part of the reason why
I understand that, and I get it. And it's early in the season, and teams are still feeling each other out. And you know what Chargers have from a pass rushing standpoint. You know what they have from a cornerback standpoint. I get the reason you went to your quick game and relied on it heavily. You went to your run game and your quick game and relied on both. The run game worked. Quick game didn't really work. Jarvis Landry, 15 targets. Just a tad too much.
Too much.
Just a tad. And I love Jarvis, and I get it. They think that Jarvis is the equivalent of a running back. And you know, you give him 10 carries, is the same thing as catches because they're short passes. But it was a little bit of overdose on Jarvis Landry. And I would love to have seen them run some outs, run some drags, you know, do a little bit of different thing. But they were really heavy, overdose on Jarvis.
Well, you think of the 4 catches that Devontae Parker had?
Yeah.
Each one was a major play in the game.
Yeah, but that's how the offense is built. The offense is built on the run game, establishes the play action. The play action, you check down game, get you converts third downs, and then when you catch the defense slipping, you go for the jugular. And that's what Devontae and Kenny Stills are for, which is why you'll see them have higher averages than Jarvis Landry or the tight end. But, you know, I would love to have seen them. They telegraphed a lot of what they were doing. When Anthony Fasano came in the game, you knew what they were doing. They were either running or going for play action. And it's, you know, I've seen better from this offense. I've seen better from Jay Cutler. I have a high opinion of Jay Cutler, and that wasn't that wasn't the best of Jay Cutler in terms of what he can do.
Because he was handcuffed a little bit, or because of even with the situations you were expecting more?
I thought there was no excuse for the offense. The offensive line should have performed a little bit better. I didn't like necessarily what I saw from the guard, Laramie Tunsil, 2 sacks. That's not good. If you could expect that for the rest of the season, it's going to be a problem. I just think that there's more. Yes, it was game one for the Dolphins, but let's not pretend like they haven't had 3 weeks to prepare for game one. There's more meat on the bone in terms of what they can do and what the potentials and capabilities they have. There is no weakness to this offense. I would like to see you perform like that.
All right, let's take our next Twitter question. It comes from 20 Benji. True or false, Jay Cutler is a better deep ball than Ryan Tannehill?
I don't know if I'm willing to say that Jay Cutler has a better deep ball. Oh.
We're racing.
That's weird. That's weird for me. New. Jay Cutler has a better arm. I don't think even Ryan Tannehill can argue that Jay Cutler doesn't have a better arm. Am I ready in a position to say Jay Cutler has a better deep ball than Ryan Tannehill? No, but history says that. Jay can lead his man. Jay can throw jump balls. Jay can throw back shoulder throws. Those are important throws. I can't sit here and say that Ryan has done an excellent job of doing that. Jay Cutler's just a notch better in 2 particular areas that are very important. Pocket presence, which is what leads to those big plays. Did you see him rolling out of that pocket? Did you see him evade some sacks that normally would have gotten the quarterback? That, to me, is a starting point. And then Jay Cutler's aggressive nature. There's a difference between Jay Cutler and Ryan Tannehill. With Ryan Tannehill, Adam Gase had to dial him up to be a little bit aggressive. With Jay Cutler, you got to dial him down to be less aggressive. And I think that is, if you're a coach, you want to go the Jay Cutler way, where you have a guy who's aggressive by nature and you say, hey, pull the reins in. See, I made that Gulfstream related. Pull the reins in just a little bit. Pull the reins in, and then you let them free.
Right.
Instead of you always having to, come on. To me, this is the quarterback that I've always waited for. I've been waiting for this quarterback, a guy who's aggressive by nature, a guy who can shrug off the criticism and just perform. He's got nothing to prove to anybody. He's made over $100 million in his career. Jay Cutler's here because he wants to be here and because he knows the Dolphins are a super talented team. The question is, can he make them perform like a super talented team?
Well, let's take our next question from Danny Wire. Should we be concerned with Laremy Tunsil's performance at left tackle yet, or be patient?
I know that Adam Gase fell on the sword.
Yes, he did.
He put the...
It's on me.
Yeah. I have heard Adam Gase fall on the sword far too many times for Laremy Tunsil mistakes. I'm sorry. I don't care about the quick game. I don't care about the silent count. I don't care. Melvin Ingram, the ball was snapped. Melvin Ingram turned the corner, and Laremy Tunsil didn't touch him.
No. I don't know how quick.
Yeah. The second sack on Chris McCain, God rest his soul. I still mourn the absence of Chris McCain. But the second sack on Chris McCain was just a hustle play. Third down, goal line situation. Jay Cutler's trying to wait for a receiver to get open. Nothing happened. He goes down for a sack. It happens.
Sure.
But the Laremy Tunsil play in the red zone, I thought that could have been a game-losing play. Third down, red zone, you're trailing, a touchdown gives you the lead, allows your defense to pin its ears back and be aggressive, and you give up a sack? That cannot happen again, ever, for Laremy Tunsil. If you are going to be considered elite, which a lot of people say and think you are, that can never happen again, ever, in your career. Elite players don't let that happen at all. Game on the line, third down, you know you're throwing, you know you're passing. It's not like it's an option play. You know you're passing, and the defensive end you don't even touch him.
Right.
Nah, not gonna buy it, Adam Gase. I can't buy it.
And you can tell in Tunsil's reaction too that he knew.
Oh,
he knew.
There's no way.
All right.
I respect Adam Gase because he will take the bullet for guys who struggle. And he will build them up. And I love the fact that he builds them up. I'm a tear them down kind of guy. But it's my job.
All right. Well,
but that is not acceptable.
Let's segue to another player that we can tear down. From at TNAD33, can we all agree that Byron Maxwell is terrible and not worth the money they're paying?
See, and this is my opportunity to build someone up.
Going to build up Byron Maxwell.
Build up Byron Maxwell. I watched that film, and a lot of those passes, and I put one of the snaps on one of the videos on Twitter. They were in zone coverage. We all know Byron Maxwell's not the greatest in zone, but they weren't allowed to be at the line, physical disrupting, which is his game. I get it. Game plans are different, but a lot of those passes Byron Maxwell could not do anything with, and the fact that Altron Werner did not even play shows you that Byron Maxwell is clearly the best that you have. Cordrea Tankersley wasn't even active.
Right.
So, hey, is Byron Maxwell worth $8.5 million? Absolutely not. But you knew that when you traded for him.
Right.
You knew that when you traded for him. It was a package deal. You take Kiko, you got to take Byron Maxwell's bad contract, which you restructured, by the way, and to get Kiko Alonso. Okay, well, make it work.
Yeah.
And I think Byron, if you put him in positions to be successful, pressing on the line, I think he will do well. Problem is, teams are smart enough to match him up against speedy guys who, you know, you press, you miss, it's over.
All right, and then let's talk a little more about the corner situation. Next tweet, is there any chance we spring a trade for a cornerback, maybe send some draft picks somewhere?
Dolphins don't have any more draft picks to send.
We just lost another one for a linebacker.
What I love about Mike Tannenbaum is they call him Trader Bob, and it's, you know, what you like is an organization that says, okay, we got an issue, let me get on the phone and see what I can make happen from a trade standpoint. Trader Bob made Stephen Anthony happen, and that's a positive for a desperate linebacker situation. Cornerback, I don't think you're desperate. I think you've got a young guy in Cordrea Tankersley who's developing and needs to continue to develop, and Altron Werner has talent, has ability. You just need to make sure that he gets ready. And then they've got some young guys that they're grooming, but and they're free agent cornerbacks. You don't need to trade for a cornerback. I know that there's talk about Richard Sherman. I know Dolphins have talked because Trader Bob likes to talk.
Sure.
Dolphins have talked about Richard Sherman. That's been out there for 2 years. Richard Sherman has a bad contract. He'll likely be cut next year. If you want Richard Sherman, no harm in getting on the phone and saying, hey, we're interested, so that maybe in off season, when he's finally released, you can be the first in line to say, hey, Richard, we'd like to make you a Miami Dolphin, and he'll be open to that. But it doesn't make any sense to trade for him now.
Richard Sherman, I feel like there are fewer owners that would get along as well with Richard Sherman as Stephen Ross would.
Oh, there's so many few. Richard Sherman's play has declined just a little bit, and he's getting paid like he's an elite cornerback, which he still is. The question is, will you give him another contract like he's an elite quarterback? And I'm not sure about that.
All right, let's talk about this week's game as the Dolphins prepare for their rival New York Jets.
Is it really a rivalry, though?
It's an AFC East rival.
I don't view anybody in the. I think the Bills are more of a rival than the Jets these days. Well, one, it's kind of hard to sit here and take the Jets serious from this standpoint. They have banished just about everybody on their team, from Brandon Marshall to the center, Mangold. Anybody who was good, the line, David Harris, the line, you know. They don't. I watched their film of the first two games against the Buffalo Bills and against the Oakland Raiders, who, good Lord, did they make the Oakland Raiders look elite. The Jets remind me of the 2007 Miami Dolphins, where they've got some talent, not enough, but some talent, and the harder you push, the more they resist. But by the second half, they got no more fight left in them, and you could just do whatever you want to them. You can run against the Jets, you can pass against the Jets, you can have big special play teams against the Jets, you can pressure the quarterback. This game is like the equivalent of the NFL's JV game.
Wow.
And Josh McCown has some talent. He can make things happen. Matt Forte has some talent. He can make things happen, but they have to consistently get lucky to even make it a game.
Right. And they don't have any real wide receivers on that team.
They just traded for Kearse. Yeah, and he performed pretty well against the Oakland Raiders. The question is how they don't have. If you're going to play a 60-snap game on offense and defense, snaps, whereas the Dolphins might have a good 40 snaps. There's going to be a 10-snap difference that the game is going to be decided on. So if I'm Miami, I run the ball and I make sure I don't have turnovers, and ultimately I'll win.
Right. Now, we've talked about that Jay Cutler and his aggression. Maybe that leads to possibly blowing a game or two that the Dolphins should win this year. You don't want to put that in. This game should never get to that point.
Definitely. It's interesting. You know, Todd Bowles, who we are familiar with because he used to be the Dolphins interim coach. He was the Dolphins defensive coordinator during that whole Tony Sparano era. It is uncomfortable to see what's going on there because they are basically tanking a man's career.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't give him a quarterback, you cut all the players on his team, and he's literally a dead man walking. For what reason? Do you want one of these young college quarterbacks? What is the reason that you've decided to be this bad as an organization? It's really a disservice to me to see what's happening there because it just shows that not everybody is given an equal and fair opportunity to succeed. And make sure that you align yourself with the right front office, right ownership group, the people who support and stand beside you. Because I've seen it go bad with this organization in terms of people not always looking out to take care of everybody's best interests. And Todd Bowles is set up to fail.
Well, I feel bad for Coach Bowles too, but that's
their problem.
It's their problem. It's two JV wins.
That's their problem. You know? Dolphins should walk away.
Hey, let's keep going. All right. Is there anything that concerns you for this game? Is there any way? Draw me the road to a Jets win.
Dolphins, even despite their 44 yards rushing against the Chargers, struggle against the run with Matt Forte and Bilal Powell. Jets run for 130 yards and score 2 touchdowns, and Jay Cutler is harassed by Leonard Williams and Muhammad Wilkerson, who I think are very good 3-4 defensive ends. The problem is they've got nothing else. They've got 3-4 defensive ends, 2 young rookie safeties, and nothing else on defense. And woo, that's a recipe for disaster if you've ever seen one. Devon House is their respectable cornerback, but he's about this big. I'm matching up Devontae Parker on him all game and throwing those jump balls to Devontae. So the only thing that I think can stand in the way of Dolphins' victory is bad play at the line of scrimmage.
That makes sense. All right, question from Ralph. Why do we play so much zone with these big press cover corners?
Compensating for everybody else's limitations. And I'm not a fan of it, but they play a lot of man too. I mean, off man, which people want, when they say that, people need to understand there's a difference between zone, which is everybody has an area, and there's a difference between off man, which means I have you, but I'm 7 yards off you. Right. Dolphins play a lot of off man. That's what I don't like. If you're going to play man, allow me to be at the line of scrimmage unless you've got 4.3 speed, and allow me to jam you. Allow me to disrupt your route, because a lot of times I'm going to disrupt the timing. I don't like off man.
Yeah.
Dolphins don't play zone. They play off man, and I think off man sucks.
Well, when you're going up against a quarterback like Phillip Rivers, who can take advantage of that off man, reads it well, knows it's not a zone, and knows where what he can do with it, and a great receiver like Keenan Allen, he seemed to be open all the time. Wasn't a good recipe.
If Nate Allen would have pulled down the 2 interceptions that were in his hands, you'd be talking about a completely different game. I think.
Yeah. If those 2 field goal, if that field goal at the end had hit, we would have been talking about an entirely different game too.
That just shows you that in the NFL, and I've always had this conversation with Cameron Wake, there are about 5 plays that just decide what the outcome of the game will be. If Cody Parkey did not make that field goal, if Young Ko Ho or whatever his name is makes that field goal, if Nate Allen comes down with one of the 2 interceptions that he had, if Laremy Tunsil didn't allow that sack, those plays.
If the holding call didn't get called where Cam Wake got held and pushed the Chargers out of field goal position in the 4th quarter. Remember that? They had a 3rd and 4 at the 31 or something.
That sack that took Phillip Rivers out of field goal territory. Yeah, there's so many different situations and scenarios where just these 5 plays can impact the outcome of the game. And that's why you try to be as consistent as you possibly can, which means everybody do their job, everybody stick to the script, and just be responsible for whatever your assignment is.
I can't imagine what it must be like to feel like a San Diego Charger today. You could be 2-0 if you had to kick a good field goal. It's incredible. One more question. It comes from Luke Fader. What are the 3 most important issues Adam Gase needs to address from week 1 going into this week's game?
I think the offense and defensive line, you know me, I'm a trench player, or as Chris Perkins likes to say, the Omar Kelly disease. The game starts and ends with the line of scrimmage, the play in the trenches. I would like to see better play from the left guard and better play from Laremy Tunsil. That left side of the offensive line compromised a little bit. Jesse Davis and Anthony Steen head-to-head battle. I thought personally Jesse Davis performed better than Anthony Steen, but it really doesn't matter. They're both sharing those snaps and rotating. And then from the defensive line standpoint, now that all these blitzes, which were ID'd for Lawrence Timmons, are not part of the equation, you got to come up with another game plan playing to the strengths of your team. Kiko's not a good blitzer. Rashad is a good blitzer, but you kind of tell when he's coming. You got to figure something out. Cornerback blitzes, more stunting. Mike Hole is not a good blitzer. You got to figure something out. You got to find somebody who can be a very physical blitzer. It's just not there, or come up with another game plan.
All right, it's prediction time. You won last week. And,
did I?
You did, because you did pick the Dolphins.
I did. That was an easy pick for me. I don't understand why everybody went with San Diego.
Because they were a 44-yard field goal away from winning the game.
Denver is a very good team. I would say right now, Denver and Oakland are probably my 2 top teams in the NFL.
Okay, wow.
Denver and Oakland.
You're buying in Trevor Siemian, huh?
He plays like, people don't realize this, but former Dolphins defensive coordinator, what is his name? The Denver Broncos coach. Vance Joseph. He's a former quarterback.
Right.
And I remember watching him play because I was a Colorado fan because they were running backs, and he was a quarterback of those teams. And Trevor Siemian plays exactly like Vance Joseph plays, and people don't realize that. But this guy's a former college quarterback who's a defensive coordinator. Think about that. Think about that.
You could say that he has a very diverse background.
Yeah, very.
And he's having the time of his life.
Yeah, back home too. But this Jets team, they have absolutely no chance of beating the Dolphins other than them getting lucky.
Yeah.
I'm going to predict a 28-13 Dolphins victory.
A big win.
I have seen the offense erupt so many times in practice. Just erupt.
Right.
Just volcanic eruption. And I think they're going to do it on the Jets.
Okay. I'm going to say that that the offense just continues to struggle a little bit more on 3rd downs, and it's a 23-13 win.
23-13 win.
All right. This has been X's and Omar presented by Gulfstream Park. We are going to be here at Gulfstream Park in Hallandale Beach all season long. So you can come down, watch us live, ask us questions live as part of X's and Omar Overtime. And of course, any of the questions that you sent us online, we are going to answer right now on Overtime. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun year. Welcome to X's and Omar presented by Gulfstream Park. This is Overtime.
The horses are coming again.
Yeah, so we actually have horse racing here on Wednesdays, this week and next week. So if you come out to watch the show live, you can enjoy some horse racing while you're watching us talk about the Dolphins. But now we're going to answer some of the questions that you've been sending us during the show and a little bit beforehand.
Which one are you at? I like
Go
the
wherever you
first
wanna
one.
go.
Luca167 asked a good question. What does Timmons have to do to get respect back from his coaches and teammates? I think he has to sit down with his team and explain what's going on, why he was absent, and if it makes sense to them, they'll come on back.
Sure, yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, they'll be like, see you, dude.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think they have to welcome him back because this whole defense is kind of built around him.
Right.
He was one irreplaceable guy, in my opinion. I can have, yes, it's not going to be easy to replace Cameron Wake, but I got a replacement in Harris. Yes, it's not going to be easy to replace Sue, but I got a replacement in Godchild, who is the top backup or versatile starter. There is no replacement for Lawrence Timmons.
Right.
You got a replacement for Rashad Jones.
Right.
You got a replacement for Xavier Howard. There is no replacement for Lawrence Timmons, which is why I kind of think he's got to come back.
How about Jim Jones? What did you see on film from Xavier Howard versus the Chargers?
Oh, that was probably, people are like puzzled. Why do I find this defensive performance so upsetting and bothersome? And it's because the players that I expected to be good were not good.
Right.
Xavier Howard is atop that list. Laramie Tunsil sits right under that list. I expected Xavier Howard to be peaking towards eliteness. Game 1 showed me he barely an NFL starter, and got to show better performance than that. There's no, he's right in that Laramie Tunsil conversation where I expected you to be good, bro.
Yeah.
Good, not average, not an NFL starter. I expected you to be good, and it didn't show up.
We went that whole show, by the way, not talking about J.J. And he brought it.
I expected him to be good, and he brought it. I think there's more meat on the bone from a pass-catching standpoint. I think there's more meat on the bone with Damian Williams, also from a pass-catching standpoint. And you could throw in Kenyon Drake. But I'm proud. I'm proud when you get 122 rushing yards and you pound it and 80 of those rushing yards come after the contact because your line isn't very good right now. Props to you, bro.
He's on pace for 444 or something carries.
That's not
no buys.
That's not gonna happen.
But that's the thing, right? Is you can't.
No,
you're not going to be able to expect what he did against the Chargers every. They're not going to be able to game plan to do that every week because he can't handle doing that.
He can do it for the next 2 weeks because you've got the Jets and you've got the Saints, who, good God, they're horrible on defense. But after that, you need to start to figure out how to get some other guys involved because J.J. isn't going to make it to week number 12 if you keep going on that workload. Here's a question from Geraldo. When will Coach Gates let Cutler sling the ball more? I think you'll see Cutler be taken off his leash when you're trailing and when you've got a respectable lead. They're not this isn't a team that's just going to run the ball to end the game. No, they're going to let Jay sling it. Yeah. And to me, I'm all good with that. He's an aggressive quarterback.
I mean, what did you see? You saw a first half in which they played it conservative. They scored 3 points. Second half, they were not as conservative, and they scored 16 points.
That's Gaze, though. He feels it out, and I'm not going to discount how he coaches.
Oh, and Belichick does the same thing. I mean, there's lots of coaches that do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Belichick does the same thing. The Patriots will make you choke on your own blood.
Right.
They're just not going to make any mistakes.
Sure.
You're eventually going to make a mistake, and we're going to capitalize on it. I don't see any reason that you can't play that way, but when you need to dial it up, you need to dial it up. And Jay Cutler's got a lot of dialing up.
He can dial it up.
Yeah.
Let's take a question from John. Do you think if this was Patriots week, the timetable on Timmons rejoining the team would be sooner?
No. No. This is about disappointing your team. This is about not being accountable. Like you talk about primarily on defense. Do your job. Be accountable. Be responsible. I mean, I've heard that from Lawrence Timmons, and he wasn't responsible. He didn't do his job. He was not accountable. There's consequences to that. It's like raising your children. You say, don't do something. You do it. Well, there has to be consequences. Otherwise, I'm going to do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
How about Philip? Do you think the Dolphins' commitment to stopping the run hampered their ability to rush the passer against the Chargers?
I think Phillip Rivers' ability hampered their ability to get pressure. It's not like he was taking 7-step drops. And he is Phillip Rivers. He's arguably going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, even though he really has had a so-so.
From a playoff perspective, he hasn't done much.
You know what? And Dolphin fans are going to find this sacrilegious. I think Phillip Rivers is this generation's version of Dan Marino. You're always sitting there saying, he's a good quarterback, but he never has a running back. He's a good quarterback, but he never has a good defense.
Right.
He's a good quarterback, but he's never had a good coach. Like, well, we can't say it about Dan Marino. It's like, at some point, Phillip Rivers just got to make it happen. And he hasn't, and his team hasn't. It is what it is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's like Dan Marino light. He's like, you know, there's some of those same things, but at the same time, when Dan Marino was arguably the best quarterback of his generation, no one's going to argue that Phillip Rivers is the best quarterback of this generation.
No. But there's more great quarterbacks in this generation than there were in Dan Marino's generation, in my opinion. You had Elway, you had Kelly, Marino.
Yeah.
Shit, excuse me. You could say
you opened a can of worms with this, by the way.
You could say Moon.
I get I'm just trying to save you all these tweets that you're going to get.
Let him go.
Let him go.
The best quarterback of all time is Tom Brady, and he's by far excelled higher than anybody else in his generation, and that includes Peyton Manning. Eli Manning has accomplished more in his career than Phillip Rivers has.
Yes, that is true.
It's Eli Manning.
Who's awful right now. Okay.
He must be on your fantasy team.
No, no, the problem is he's been on primetime, and I've watched him play twice.
Because they hype up these teams. They hype up these teams and have these lofty expectations, and I do expect the Giants to be better, but it is what it is. Sometimes teams take a minute to get chemistry, and let's not pretend like their top player isn't hurt.
Right. Well, let's see. How about Overpowered Gaming? I guess I just gave that a plug, but he tweeted at us, so whatever. From your experience with Cut Dog so far, do you believe he has as bad a rap as some teammates suggest?
I can understand why he has the reputation that he has. I mean, and I wrote about it in today's column in Sentinel. Jay Cutler is the face of the apathetic quarterback.
Yeah,
it's
literally
like,
the face.
It's the face and the persona. He's like, don't care.
Yeah.
He's just Jay Cutler. He's just going to do his thing. And I can understand that, but there's talent there, which is why he's made over $100 million in his career. And if his teammates don't have a problem with him being accountable to them, why should anybody else have a problem with it?
And we've talked about the little facial tick before. He just has it's like a tick.
I don't think I brought it to the public, but yeah, Jay Cutler has a facial tick.
Yeah.
And it's like his face does something, and it's not intentional.
Yeah.
And he can try to get it under control, but I'm sure it's something that he was born with. And a lot of times when cameras see him, it's him just like, it's him in the middle of the facial tick.
Right.
And people just mock it, and I can understand why he's super sensitive about it, because it's like the reason people have mocked him for his entire career.
Right.
It's like because he has a face like, don't care.
Yeah.
But he's making that face because there's something going on where there's a facial tick.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
Are we good?
He's made over $100 million.
He's doing just fine. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
So this game, 1-0, Jets, Saints.
Saints aren't going to be easy, though.
Titans not as good.
Oh, don't start.
They're
Titans,
not as
I like
good?
Titans. I like the Titans. I think that's their best chance to be upset, just like last season.
This ball is rolling. This ball could get rolling a little bit, right?
The Dolphins, wait till the next adversity hits, and then tell me how much it's rolling. We could lose Rashad Jones on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Changes the whole dynamic of the season. Be patient.
There's not a suspension coming for Jarvis Landry down the road, is there?
No. I don't think so.
Okay.
You got to have evidence there.
Okay. Just checking. All right. That's X's and Omar presented by Gulfstream Park. We'll see you back here next week at 1 o'clock.